Hey, everybody. Obviously a little lag. I'm just posting that I'm about to start the live stream. Uh, Jesse, hello. Wow, got a visitor already. That was fast. Thank you. Um, I've obviously started a bit of sketching because I want to have enough time to ink because I've only got about an hour. Let's see. I'm trying to decide which pens I'm going to use. I'm trying. Hello, comic book guy, and hello, Eric Rivera. What am I drawing now? Today's prompt was poison, so I've sketched out a Baroness and a Cobra. That's what's in my mind, and I'm gonna start refining the details here. Jesse is curious if I've tried dip pens before. Yeah, I have. I don't feel that I personally have great control with them, but I think that the results can be fantastic if you're a talented artist. Yeah. I'm going to start in just a second. Thanks for joining me, everyone. It's really nice to see that there's some folks here. Let me know if anybody's got any questions. Hello again, Milos. That's right, comic book guy, Baroness. All right. So I am going to start with some fine details. So I'm looking for my number one. Well, yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to do a few more details with my pencil before I'm just not bold enough yet to commit to my pen that fast. Jesse says I'm working on a poison ivy, and he uses them referring to, I guess, dip pens. Yo, Joe, comic book guy. I discovered a YouTube channel a while back, um, Hooded Cobra Commander 788. He reviews vintage GI Joe figures, and I love his channel. I just it's made me feel very nostalgic. I've really been enjoying it, and we've even collaborated a couple times a little bit. So I've just been thinking of GI Joe a lot since I've sort of met Brian. That's not looking right. And so that's why this probably popped into my head. All right. Nah, that's good enough. Curious, but do you often do portfolio checks from new artists knowing that you're quite experienced? Oh, I'm not sure that I am, Eric. That's really kind of you to say, but I feel like my artwork needs a lot of work. I don't know. No, to answer your question, I have not done a lot of portfolio reviews. I've taught some writing classes in comics before, but I've never really considered myself enough of an expert on drawing to give anybody a review. I feel like I've still got a long ways to go personally with my own artwork. Julio says, what do you think about those who criticize John Romita Jr. I like his work sometimes and sometimes hate it. I guess I haven't really heard much hate for him personally. Uh, I think it all depends on how much time he has to draw a comic because I think he's incredible when he's got plenty of time. I think he really understands the fundamentals, not just of stuff like anatomy and that. I think he really understands the fundamentals of storytelling in comics, and I think that's what makes him um, a real talent. But your mileage may vary. No, I think John Romita Jr. is really, really talented. But I have seen comics by him where I'm like, not his best. I want to say maybe something like Kick-Ass 2. I think that might have been an example of one he had to sort of rush, if I'm remembering correctly. Don't necessarily quote me on that. What do I collect besides comics? Asks Comic Book Guy. These days not a lot, but I do get those Hot Toys action figures of the Marvel movies. That just sort of became a thing. Uh, those are like the 12-inch tall figures. They're kind of detailed, so I get those. And then I have a really bizarre collection. I collect Donatello action figures, as in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't get any of the other Ninja Turtles, but I try to get every variation of Donatello. I know that's kind of weird, but that's kind of what makes it fun to hunt down and to be on the lookout for. That's about it. And I don't know, I don't think it would even really be fair to say that I collect comics these days. I read comics all the time and I buy comics, but I really don't collect them anymore. I read a lot of my comics digitally at this point. It's just easier for me to read them on my tablet or something like that than to pick it up in some other manner. And I give a lot of comics away after a little while. I don't keep them that long. Some of them I do. Plenty of them I give away to friends. Sorry about the background noise. I guess I've got a middle school directly across the street from me here. So you may hear some kids or a car here or there. It's almost the end of the day, but there's a little bit that goes on directly across the street. You collect wrestlers. What do you mean by that, Comic Book Guy? Do you mean wrestling action figures, or do you literally kidnap wrestlers and hold them in your home? Because if that's what you're doing, that's wrong. And I'm going to have to call the police. Stop collecting real life wrestlers. One thing that's a little tricky about drawing while I live stream is that when I just draw for myself, I can rotate this canvas a lot more to make it easier for myself. But if I'm doing it and trying to present what I'm doing without covering it up or taking it off camera, I can't really rotate it as much, and I can't always put my arm there. You know that I'm covering stuff up. Oh, okay. Comic Book Guy collects wrestling figures, not people. So no police call today. I'm planning on dropping a lot of black today. I'm really trying to be more confident with how much I'll drop for blacks and inks. One of my favorite artists personally is Mike Mignola, Hellboy. He's so confident with his inking. If I could even be 25% as good as that, I'd be very happy. That's me. I'm mostly interested today in drawing this handgun well, keeping the lines nice and straight and using plenty of shadow. And then if there's time, focusing on the blacks that I'm going to drop into this Cobra that I've sort of penciled out and cleaned up. And then depending on how fast I go, I'll get into the rest of the detail on the Baroness. I hope I've got time, so the trick is I gotta keep moving. Gotta keep moving, can't slow down. So if I start to get into a groove and I haven't answered a question in a while, just understand that it's because I'm trying to go fast, but I'll try to remember to look up regularly. Who would win in a fight, Ghost Rider or Spawn? Hmm. All right, that's a fun hypothetical. I think I'd have to go with Spawn. He just has more power, doesn't he? Because I think Ghost Rider could try to harm Spawn with his penance stare. That's going to be his most powerful weapon against Spawn, is making him feel the guilt and the pain of that he's caused others. But I think that Spawn kind of just lives with that pain all the time. And so he might be able to shake it off to a degree. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Comic Books Guy says, I tried to win the Fantastic Four comic contest. Well, I tried. Well, you and a bunch of other folks. I was glad that a bunch of people were at least interested. I mean, that wasn't a cheap comic to acquire or give away. It made me feel a little guilty at the end when I realized that a bunch of people wanted it and I could only give away a single copy. So I don't know. I like the idea of a giveaway to like sort of say thank you to viewers, but I can't thank every individual person by giving away a thing. So I don't know if I'll do that anymore. I mean, I got to think that one through. And also, I don't want to feel like I'm buying views. I just wanted to say thank you, but I don't want to cause any hurt feelings. So I got to think about that if I'll do any giveaways again. I don't even know if that's a common thing. I started this YouTube channel without being too plugged into YouTube culture. And I'm sort of still learning about like what other channels do and what's considered normal. I feel a little ignorant there. Just kind of doing my own thing, like what, to have fun, keep busy. What sort of artists inspire you? Asks Eric Rivera. Um, I think that the artists that inspire me in general are the artists who just have a tremendous work ethic, the guys that just keep cranking out books regularly, and the ones that improve. Um, yeah, guys that noticeably improve their craft. Like Travis, I don't know if you pronounce it Charest or Charest. When he started out in the industry, he was a Jim Lee clone, and not even a very good one in a way. And then his artwork went through this evolution, and he just really changed his whole process and approach. I really appreciate how much he grew. That was really an inspiration to realize that you could start at one point, sort of being inspired by whatever's popular at the time, and then you could like come out the other end completely your own artist, like just wow. That was a process I really enjoyed seeing. But also just like anybody that can keep up with a monthly schedule for a long period of time. Um, you know, the ones that I see the most are because I'm proofing stuff like Walking Dead and Invincible, and then I go, wow, uh, Charlie Adler and Ryan Ottley are really impressive guys because they have stuck with a comic for a really long time, each of them. That's that's tremendously admirable and impressive that they can sort of maintain, a real quality of work there. So that's what impresses me. People with a hard work ethic, because I'm like, wow, that's what I would like to be able to do is just, work fast and regularly and produce something that looks nice. I mean, just watching me, you can probably tell I'm pretty slow. I have to really think out each move. I'm not as confident with just throwing down brushes like some artists. What got me into comics? Asks Charles. Nothing that impressive. Just came at the right time for me. I I was really into Transformers in like I don't know, maybe third grade, something like that. And I discovered that there was a Transformers comic book, and so I was like, oh, I have to read all of these. It wasn't just enough that I found a single issue at the convenience store. I wanted to read all the issues. So I was just so into Transformers that I was going around looking for the back issues and stuff, and I discovered comic book stores by looking in the in the yellow pages. And so getting those back issues for Transformers and the Transformers comic in the 80s by Marvel, it was fine for the age that I was, but it wasn't that great. And it certainly isn't anything like what IDW does these days. But anyway, it got me into the comic book store, and then I started discovering, uh, Spider-Man, Batman, but also a lot of indie stuff. I was reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Tick, Usagi Yojimbo. It was just this time where a ton of black and white indie comics were sort of exploding in popularity. And that's the stuff that kind of really got me to love comics. All those things. But superheroes too. Geek Workshop says, you like jazz? Not especially. It's okay. If you asked me who my favorite jazz musician was, I mean, does Sam Cooke count, I guess? But after that, I don't know. I don't know. Have you worked on any comic books as a writer-artist? Asks Anja. Yeah, a few. Let's see. Ones that you can easily find include Colonial Comics, Volume 1 and 2, or Trickster. Trickster was written by all Native Americans, and then they could choose an artist that they thought fit their vision. Each of them were writing their tribe's version of a trickster legend. That could be a god, a spirit, some sort of animal. Anyway, Trickster I did a story for. Those were all books that I worked on as an artist. And then stuff that you wouldn't really be able to find too easily. I did a lot of independent, self-published type stuff with all sorts of people from a local group that I helped organize back in the day called the DC Conspiracy. They're still around. I just have moved away, so I don't get to work with them as much. But they put out like a free newspaper in the DC area called Magic Bullet, full of comics. So if you're ever in the DC area, look for the Magic Bullet at comic book stores, because it's pretty much all over the place in the DC area. Anyway, I did a bunch of self-published anthologies and stuff with them that I both wrote and draw stories about. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. I don't even know where to begin. Just a ton of stuff. But if you're asking, have I ever worked for somebody like Marvel or that? No. No. Got ideas as a writer, but who knows how I'd ever get in front of an editor there. I'm kind of not one that, I don't really like exploiting my connections. So like, I'm about to go to New York Comic Con. And, I might see somebody like Robert Kirkman or Jason Latour, who does Southern Bastards and Spider-Gwen. These are guys that I know, and we're friendly, friendly enough that we could theoretically get lunch or something. But I'm not very likely to ask them for help. I'd rather kind of just submit things blind. We'll see. That's just me. I know that's kind of weird. Let's see, what else? Hi, Snuffles. Ghost Dog says, have you created any original characters, and if so, would you be willing to show us some of them one day? Sure. I think everybody's probably created some original characters that likes comics, so Yeah, I've got a couple. I might show some of them one day. I'd have to dig some of the artwork out. I don't have it like easily at hand all the time, but I've got a couple ideas for like pitches that I've had. I had one pitch back in like 2004 that Image had sort of said yes to, and then I basically took too long with my artist, and they sort of forgot and changed their minds. So that was sort of on me. We had like instead they only wanted apparent. I misunderstood things at the time. They only wanted like 10 black and white pages right away to see, and we produced like 30 in color with lettering and stuff. I was dumb. I didn't know what I was doing back then. But I could potentially pull that out and show that someday, because that didn't go anywhere, ultimately. Maybe I'd show some things like that. Hello, Gad. Sigamigs says, do you like Filipino comic artists like Lan Medina, Wills Portacio, etc.? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you kidding? There's so many good Filipino artists out there these days. Um, yeah, there's one guy I know a little bit online who's a fantastic artist, and you know what? I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to let somebody else scoop him up. But there's a guy I'm talking to. Oh my gosh, he's talented. My thing is, I hate when a writer approaches an artist and says something like, "Oh, you know, like let's do a pitch together, and then I'll pay you on the back end. You know, you'll get a percent of the profits, or we'll split it like 50-50 or something like that." I don't think that's fair. I think you need to pay your artist. I think if you believe in your story, prove it. Pay the person for their time. That's how I do it, because I've been on the other side as an artist. I mean, it's a little different if it's like a close friend of yours or something that's offering like, "Hey, let's do a pitch together." But if it's a stranger or something that that that's pretty crummy in my opinion. Pay your artist. Wow, my brush pen here that I only used yesterday for the first time is kind of dying on me. I guess I'm using it too much for like these big thick blacks. I should really be using it more for like just the outlines of stuff. Well, live and learn. Check out what you guys are saying in just a sec. Do you think another big publisher like Marvel or DC will ever come? Absolutely. Yeah. I think it could be something that we're not expecting. Like it could be a primarily digital publisher. I think theoretically, like maybe a manga publisher. Something that resonates and they just like have big sales for several years in a row, and that's all it's going to take. So yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Or maybe like Image just picks like 3 comics in a row that are Walking Dead level popular, or IDW or Dark Horse does something like that. I mean, it just sort of needs a publisher and an editor in chief that sort of can shape that company, and who knows where that'll come from. But yeah, I think it's definitely entirely possible. that another company could rise and sort of take one of those top spots away from one of the big two. Lots of shadows in this. Yes, Maddie. Maddie 2, iOS Brother 2. That's what I'm going for today. That's 100% my goal is to just use lots of blacks. It's Inktober. I'm trying to work on various inking techniques. I'm trying to be more bold with how much ink I use, because I think that when you know how to do it right, the finished product benefits. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is use a lot of ink. We'll see if it benefits me. What kind of pens, pencils, and inks do you use or prefer? I just realized it's getting dark. I'm going to throw on my light. Hopefully you can see the artwork better. I know I get washed out, but I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. I should have turned that on earlier. I got to like set an alarm at what time it gets dark. What do I like? I am a big fan of mechanical pencils. And I am especially a big fan of the Graph Gear 1000 Pentel. Pentel, I believe, is a Japanese company. What I like about this, compared to just any old mechanical pencil, is how it's weighted. There's a real heft to this. And then it's got like a very subtle grip here. This isn't like overly rough or anything. It's just enough for it to catch. So I like mechanical pencils in general. You got to get the right lead so that and paper so that it doesn't smudge. But the way this one's weighted, and this comes in like 0.5 or a 0.3. So I've got that, and then a very, very similar one. I picked this up in Japan about this time last year. This is called a Pro Mecha 0.5. This is also from Japan. Very similar idea. It's pretty heavy. Like, this is actual metal, and it's heavy, and that balance, it really helps you control your line. This one's way heavier up front at the grip, whereas this one's heavier back here with like the clip. So it just sort of depends on what you feel like at any given moment. But I'm a big fan of these. And then as far as inking, I'm trying to figure out what tools I like working with. I kind of like this Pigma FB brush pen, but it didn't seem to last all that long. And I'll use a lot of Pigma. I'll use a lot of Pigma microns to do fine detail. Maybe I'll work on that for a minute. Ken Ives says, fantastic foreshortening, and like, thank you, Ken, because that was actually very much my goal with this, was to improve on foreshortening. Wow, that makes me happy. I wasn't sure if it was any good or not. So I'm just sort of messing around with various techniques because I'm not 100% sure how to make this look good, but we'll see what happens. I need something thicker than this. I guess I don't have anything thicker. Will we see more art, or is this an Inktober thing? For right now, it's an Inktober thing, but I am having a good time, and so yeah, I could see myself doing some more of this. I mean, I draw all the time, guys, but mostly it's really just sort of more along the lines of like doodles, sketches. So yeah, I've never considered really doing too much, but we'll see. We'll see. Part of the problem with getting paid on the back end is that most comics are profoundly unprofitable. Yeah, of course. Well, it depends on like what kind of arrangement you set up. What I'm suggesting is that you pay an artist for the proposal pages, because you really don't need more than 5 or 6 pages for a proposal, okay? So if you're going to pay them a good rate, yeah, that's several $100s. But you got to consider that an investment in your future into breaking into the industry. So if you find a good artist, that's what they're worth, you know? That's how you attract good talent, and you pay them that. And then if the book is picked up by a publisher, then you maybe split the profits. And yeah, it may not be profitable per se, but that's a risk that, you know, the creative team takes on. Like you're gonna have to stand by your vision. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents. Is pay up front for the proposal pages, and that will also show that your artist that you're serious about your project. So I know it's not easy necessarily to have a few $100, $1,000, etc. But if that's what you want to do, is break in, and you think that you have a really good story, prove it to your artist by paying them what they're worth. If artists gets paid for a comic book, can they claim creative rights to the story or character? No, not necessarily. That's a pretty straightforward thing, Anja, that the writer and the artist, they just have their own contract before they even send it to the publisher. And that contract would outline how much you're each getting paid and what the creative split is. So you have to agree to that together beforehand. If you feel that you've written a story and it's all the way there, and you know that would include character designs. If you've done those yourself and they're, you know, solid, and your artist thinks that they can work off of them, then yeah, you can say that it's work for hire. But if you're asking, you know, your artistic partner to do some creative designs, well, then they've got at least partial ownership there. And anyway, but that's something that, you know, the two of you would agree upon before you ever got published. You would look for a default contract. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy, but that's the way you'd approach that. Oh, and Gad says it depends on the contract. Gerzagors says, "Hi, Chris. I'm glad I made it. Bad time zone calculation." Well, I'm glad you made it too. Thank you very much. You guys are very patient with me. Whew, I realize I'm quiet. It's because I'm trying to get some fine detail that I want. I realized I was almost holding my breath there. That's funny. Let's see. The image refreshed after it had been outlined, so the gun instantly became inked on my end. And my fiance says, "What would I like to eat for dinner?" Wow. I am happy to take whatever I can get. I could go for a salad, or I could go for something more substantial. Do we have any pot roast in the fridge? That's something I would love. Ah, the life of an artist. We talk to each other through chat. Chrissy is my fiance. She's a very talented painter. She constantly has her artwork up in galleries here in Seattle, and last year she even had her paintings in a gallery in Hong Kong. So we took a trip both to Hong Kong and to Japan, which is where I got some of these things like these pencils. So I would say that I'm very, very lucky. That's more personal information than I had planned on giving out, but I think I can trust you guys. Oh wait, it's archived for all time. Oh no. Oh no. Hold on 1 second. This is an important text. I've got a friend in DC whose dog is she escaped. Oh, he says that a dog matching his dog's description was turned into the SPCA and it's really close to his house. Oh, I really hope that's his dog. I've never had a pet run away. That just sounds so stressful. She went out into their back fenced yard and I guess somehow squeezed out through the fences or underneath or something like that. And has been on the run for over 24 hours. So he is very stressed out about getting his dog back. Oh boy, I really hope that that dog that got turned into the ASPCA could be his. That would be nice. You guys got any pets? Anybody out there got any unique pets? I have cats. I am a cat person, but I like dogs too, don't worry. I just don't have one. All right, can I have drawing from you? I'm not going to just give this away, comic book guy. Take some time. But then I'd feel like weird selling it. Well, let me think about it. Maybe not this one. Maybe another one. Maybe that's something I could. Maybe you know what, comic book guy? Maybe I will give some of these away. If my audience wants it, what am I going to do with it, right? Now, what I'm talking about there, if I decide to give this away, a lot of artists would be very mad at me. Because art is valuable, and asking for free art is generally considered a no-no from big-time professionals. So when an artist gives away their artwork, that can potentially devalue everybody's artwork. But I would argue it's always up to the artist. If they want to just give it away to somebody as a thank you, I think that's different. I think that's different than just somebody asking for a freebie. So let me think about it, and maybe I'll offer some of these Inktober drawings up. We'll see. I'm not doing it right here, right now. Let me think about it. So I do appreciate all of you out there. I don't know. If I have too many followers and too many people want something and I can't make everybody happy, then I'm just going to feel bad. But if it's a small number of people that want something, maybe. All right, what else is being, all those scales, done something more humanoidal in my youth, lots of hours of work, but nothing professional. Maybe you should do a Sean Phillips inspired drawing. Oh, Ken Ives, his inking technique, not Ken's, Sean Phillips, that would take me a long time to really master. Because he doesn't just drop in shadow like I am. You know, he's got a particular way of like dealing with feathering, doesn't he? Just gritty and unique. Oh man, I am a big fan of Sean Phillips' artwork, and his inking is a massive part of that. When I was a kid reading comics in the 80s and 90s, I could identify inkers just by looking at the pages. I couldn't identify today's inkers, but I used to be able to identify not just the artist, but the inker. That's what I was into. I just loved that stuff. Jeff Dunham's #1 fan said something and then retracted it, so I can't see it. Geek says, as you said you like cats, I heard a really loud meow. I don't think that was from here, though. You might have heard there are some kids playing right outside, and their yells and their screams and stuff can sound a little odd when it comes through the microphone. So I think that's probably what you heard. Probably. It's possible they meowed and I just ignored it because I live with them. But generally, I'm kind of attuned to my cats meowing because it means they want something and they're trying to communicate with me. So usually I listen to that. It's amazing how pets, like dogs and cats specifically, can kind of communicate with us just by making noise. I mean, it's what a baby does, you know? Oh, are you hungry? Do you want to just play? But they are communicating with us, and I find that kind of impressive. Can we see your cats? Probably not, Geek Workshop. They don't really like coming into. This is our workroom, my fiance and I. Like, this is the room where we like. She paints and I draw and stuff, and for some reason they don't really like coming in here too often. So even if I were to leave the door open, I'm not 100% sure they would come into this room. I it's not like we've ever specifically told them no, but they seem to kind of know that we don't really want them in here with like a wet paint and drying ink and things like that. So I'll try to think of like if I can ever work them into one of my videos. I love those dumb beasts. I love my cats. They really cheer me up. I don't know if I know that sounds sappy and stuff, but just sitting down on the couch to watch the news or YouTube or football, when my cats jump on top of me and just sort of lay down to rest, that just chills me out. That makes me feel so calm and relaxed and happy. I don't understand what is happening there where my brain decides to fire some chemicals just because a little animal has decided to rest on top of me. But boy, does that make me feel good. Jack Kirby gave his art away. Well, I'm sure if he knew what it would go for today, he might have held on to it for at least his family's benefit, you know? It was a different time. Comic book artists didn't really value themselves like they should have. That's how they sort of got taken advantage of by agreeing to so many work-for-hire deals. They just didn't value their own contributions like they should have. It's kind of sad, actually. I think guys like Siegel and Schuster, they invented Superman. You know, those guys deserved to retire wealthy and have their families set up for life. And that's really not the case. But when you think about it, like, the creators are the ones that should be set up for life, not necessarily the company, just because they happen to luck into an idea. Of course, they're not the only ones that contributed to Superman's success, or any superhero out there really has been written by multiple writers, drawn by multiple artists. They all deserve their credit. It's just sad when somebody that creates something that becomes iconic to Americana itself, like to know that they didn't really get their proper recognition in their own time. It's a little upsetting to me. What else? Your cats are such an anomaly. All the cats I've been around have no respect for personal space. Oh, well, I'm sure that they... Yeah, I mean, now that you say that, and it's like, yeah, they do jump up on my bureau, and when they want to be fed first thing in the morning and I'm still sleeping, they'll push off whatever is on my bureau. I've got another cat who will bite paper to get my attention, because he knows that if he's biting paper, I'm going to react fast, because it's either a bill or a comic book or something. So it's not that they respect my space. They just happen to respect this room for some reason. Not to be a downer, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the current state of the comic book industry. Comic H-Ron release monthly sales, and they're kind of worrisome. That's from Spatel. Lobster? Batman's the only one doing really well. Well, that's true to a degree. I would say go ahead and also factor in digital comic sales and trade paperback sales, because trade paperback sales in bookstores like Barnes & Noble's, the last I saw, was actually quite healthy. Individual monthly issues, not as much. But I think what that says are two things. One, monthly comics cost too much per issue. I think we could all agree with that. They're too expensive. I think also it's not people's preferred delivery method anymore. People want to read complete stories, or they want to read disposable stories. Not bad, I just mean disposable in the sense that, like, you can bring it with you on, like, you know, the bus on your morning commute and read it. If you go to Japan, if you go to Europe, you'll see comic books everywhere. But they're printed on newsprint, not like, you know, fancy glossy paper. Individual, like, sort of like, they'll have like anthologies, or they'll have individual issues that you can buy quite cheap. So it's more disposable. Or, once it's finished, everything is collected into a complete story volume, or at least, you know, several issues worth, so that you get a bunch of story. And I think that Americans are very similar. That's what we want. Is we want either something cheap or something complete. We don't want to be paying top dollar for a short story. It's ridiculous. So I say monthly comics should have like cheaper paper actually, and then the trade paperbacks are priced a little bit more reasonably. So that's what I think. I think that the big two are very slow to change their model. But you know what? Someday they're going to have to, because it'll be the only way to make a profit. Right now, they're relying on older fans that will buy just about anything. But they will dry up, those fans. They will go away at some point, or enough of them will. So, you need to change the model. You need to change the delivery system. There are ways to make it affordable. Comics aren't going to go away. The characters, people like the characters, people like the talent, the writing, and the artists and stuff. They'll just find a different way to deliver it. They'll find different places to work. So, don't worry. Comics themselves aren't going away. But possibly the way we're used to getting them might change. But I really wouldn't worry. Like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Wolverine, they're not going anywhere. Gerzagors is talking about the panels that I have in the background of my comic tropes show, saying, I find that one of Spider-Man with a hand in a butt really hilarious and maybe a little bit concerning. So if anyone's ever been curious what that is, that's actually a picture of him being attacked by Sandman. And I don't know why the artist decided to sort of draw Spider-Man as though he's getting punched in the butt. But technically, the story makes it sound like Sandman is punching Spider-Man on the head. The sand is going everywhere, and on top of that, Spider-Man is toppling over. But that's not what it looks like. So I just decided to find some good out-of-context panels as background for my show. There's some other weird ones there too. Do you think that maybe the paper quality and overpowering coloring styles should be downgraded and comics should return to a more pulpy levels? It would bring the cost down. Yes, I think that there should basically be at least two levels for comics. I think that there should be sort of a cheap version where you could just read it faster, get it quick, but not pay a lot, and then maybe a more highly produced version as a trade paperback or something like that, like a collection. I'm gonna clean this some of my pencil marks up a little just to see what this is really looking like. I feel like I can't quite tell. It's all right. Wanted to try to draw an animal. So when I thought of poison, I thought of Cobra, and I kind of wanted to draw both the Baroness and a Cobra, so split the difference. A little of both. What are your thoughts on newspaper comic strips? Boy, I don't know. You know what the problem is print is kind of dying, isn't it? So there just aren't that many really good ones out there because it's not that profitable. Not too many newspapers carry strips, and the ones they do are quite short. Comic strips used to be like, they'd each get a full page. You get a lot more real estate to experiment with. The artist could do a whole lot more. You could tell more story. You could build up bigger gags, and now you just like down to like quick little 3 panels. I haven't read newspaper strips in a while, and that used to be really exciting on Sundays to get the newspaper, just so that I could read the Sunday funnies. And that's where comic books started. They were just reprints of the Sunday inserts in newspapers. I don't think that'll necessarily last too much longer. I think that there's probably always going to be a little bit of cartooning in a paper, either like political cartoons here and there, or maybe like, you know, a local paper just giving like, you know, a new artist a platform to sort of play with. I mean, it can sort of benefit both of them. But I think that the days of syndicated comic strips in newspapers is probably not very long for this world. I just don't know how it can be profitable. I don't know. Maybe it still can be, but I don't know. Just brushes. Almost had it. Embrace indie comics, they need our help, says Comic Book Guy. I agree. But I like a wide variety of comics myself, so I'm always trying various indie comics. If a friend recommends it, or if I go to I like to go to small press conventions sometimes, small press comic conventions. And even when I go to a big one, like the upcoming New York Comic Con, I will definitely be swinging through Artist Alley to see if anything catches my eye. Now, there's a lot of like cliche stuff of people just trying to do what, you know, superheroes or horror stuff that's already popular. So I admit there's a lot of kind of crap to wade through, but there's also really cool stuff to discover. You can find some real passion in Artist Alley, because they know that they're not necessarily going to make tons of money on it, but they've got a drive to tell that story. I respect that. I respect that a lot. Passion will count for a lot with me. I'm like, all right, I'll use my imagination if the art isn't the best or the story isn't polished. But if you're like passionate about something, that shines through. That's just my 2 cents. Sigamig says, I have never bought single issues. I got into comics through trade paperbacks. Wow. That was not an option when I was young. Trade paperbacks came well after I had gotten into comics. But I see the appeal. And I'd probably do a little bit more of that myself, but I like I was saying earlier, I read a lot of stuff digitally, so it just doesn't matter to me. I don't care too much about the collecting aspect anymore. I just like reading a good story, and I love what you can do with comics. So still read lots of comics. And I think I always will. I understand you're just chilling and chatting, don't want to ask too many stacked questions, but say I was making a comic book that I'd like to submit to Image. Would you have any advice for me? Well, just make sure your ducks are in a row. By that I mean, make sure you've, really look at the artwork and really look at the story and ask yourself, is this better than what I see on the newsstands? Is this better than what's in the comic book stores? Because if it's not as good, then you're never going to make it. If it's just as good, it's a long shot too. Now, you need to be better. So make sure that you've got a script that you can show them, a first full issue script, Make sure that you've got a synopsis of where things are going. That includes spoilers. You don't need to hide anything from the publisher. They want to know where things are going, what they're investing in. Show them as much art as you can. I think you only need about 5 or 6 pages of you only need 5 or 6 consecutive pages of your actual comic, but you know, some designs, character designs and stuff like that can help too. You don't want to overwhelm them. 5 or 6 pages will show what you guys can do. So that's what you need. And then keep in mind, what is Image publishing these days? Does it make sense to submit this to Image instead of a different publisher? What is being published out there today? Are there too many horror stories? If so, and you're doing a horror story, they might not want to do horror stories right now because they've got a full plate. Are you doing a crime comic and they're doing tons of crime comics? Or maybe some other publisher is doing a ton of crime comics? Now might not be the best time to pitch that idea. You want to stand out from the crowd, so you want something that's unique. So that's what I would say. If you're going to pitch to Image, be sure that what you're giving them is better than what you're seeing out there. It can't just be fan art. It needs to be really top-notch. And make sure that you're prepared to show them where things are going. Pedro says, whoa, that's cool. That's a really good drawing, dude. Wow. Well, that's very kind of you. Lorena says, have you ever seen the work of Jordi Bernet? He is a Spanish artist. He worked in Jonah Hex. I have not, Lorna. I'm always interested in seeing new artwork. So you know what? I'll just pull it up now, and then I'll take a closer look later. Jordi Bernet. It's a picture of the Baroness because I was trying to figure out her costume earlier. Oh, wow. Wow, yeah. If most of this is his, this is very good. That's very impressive. Oh, wow. Look at that. That sort of looks like something that's a cross between Sean Gordon Murphy and Sean Phillips. I don't know how well you can see that. It's probably reflecting badly, but yeah. Oh, there's his Jonah Hex, I guess. Impressive. Impressive. Oh, more questions about submitting to Image. Let's say it's really good, but what if I don't have any social media presence, no fan base established? Would they turn me down for that, even if the book is good? No, 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 no. If the book is good, then that's all that matters. You don't... Social media and fan base doesn't factor into the decision. Don't worry about that. Just have a really good book, and you'll be fine. Okay, coming from you. Sorry, thinking through light sources. What time is it? Oh my, I've been going for over an hour, folks. And I'm not done. That's too bad. I was hoping to get a little further than this today, but I knew that was also kind of a long shot. All right, what else? Cool picture. Do you use digital techniques to enhance it later? Well, not for this, because this is purely just sketching for practice. I'm not doing anything else with this artwork. If I was using this as a panel in a comic book, I could, and I have in the past. I don't know that there's. You see, this isn't even really finished, so I don't know what I would need to sort of fix there. Um, Sometimes I draw completely digitally without like any paper, but that's really just when I'm trying to go kind of fast. I don't like the result as much because I think it looks more stiff. Uh, the way I think I loosen up at least a little bit when I draw with pencil and paper. So I'll say it's an interesting feathering effect, isn't it? Using this short pen, this thin pen. Just interesting. By the way, is it weird that you remind me of James Rolfe from Cinemassacre a little bit? Your calm demeanor and genuine interest to communicate and educate seems similar. The real James Rolfe, not his angry video game nerd character. I'll take it as a compliment. James has a lot of passion for talking about movies. I have a lot of passion for talking about comics, so it's possible we have that in common, I suppose. Passion for our interests. Let me see what this brush is like. I don't think I've used this one. Okay, it's thick, but it's in good shape, so I'm going to use this for the hair. Jesus, over here it's a little past 7 p.m. and I still hear kids screaming in the playground across the street from me. Come on. Go home. Go to bed. You're little kids. I'm probably going to stop the stream pretty soon, folks. Got more to do tonight. Kind of getting lost in this, but sincerely appreciate everybody taking some time to stop by tonight. Chatting with you guys really helps pass the time. Like that hour plus just flew by. Maybe I will do some more live streams after Inktober. It's good practice, right? What YouTube channels would you recommend for us to check out? Not necessarily comic book related. That is, I mean, all I can tell you are some of the channels that I enjoy. I'm a big fan of Harry Partridge for animation. That's not doing well. I love Red Letter Media for their movie reviews. Big fan of how they structure things. What else do I like? You know, I use YouTube to watch a lot of just sort of the news and then a lot of movie criticism and commentary. And then off the top of my head right now, I can't really think of too many that I watch regularly. Sorry. Be curious to hear what channels y'all like, because I do enjoy getting lost in YouTube, finding new reviews and stuff to get into. Bye for now. Bye, Software Agents Corp. Thanks for stopping by. Kevin Powell says, I've got a question, and it's going to sound stupid, but is Inktober all pens and markers? Because I've been using pencils. Keelan, not Kevin, Keelan. It's whatever you want it to be, man. It's the point is just to draw, or you know what? Honestly, create any kind of art that you want. Like I think that musicians could still hashtag it as Inktober, and that was just what inspired them to produce something. But no, I think that drawing with pencils is fine. If that's what you want to do, then do it. Don't worry about it. This is just an excuse for all of us to do more artwork, any kind. You're under zero obligation to make anybody else happy. So, if you want to work with pencils, do it. What I've been doing is I feel like I've never really practiced a whole lot with inking. So, I'm usually doing a little bit of a sketch before my live stream starts, and then spending at least an hour inking. But that's just because that's what I personally want to do. You should do whatever you want to do. I'm really close to a stopping point. Really close. But it's bothering me that I haven't illustrated Baroness's eyes. Bothering me quite a bit. The Gray Fox says, yeah, you should definitely do more live streams. Well, you know what? If I can find a way to make it work, I will try to do that. That's the trick, though. Finding a way to have enough time to do my weekly review show. Of course, go to work. Etc. And then trying to add in drawing on top of that is pretty tricky. I'm going to have to cover this up a little just so that I can get my hand in the right place, folks. Jeff Dunham's #1 fan says Godzilla Mendoza. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Spatel Lapsta says Red Letter Media for sure. Also, Arlnauts, The Box Office Artist, Will Terry, Jonathan Rector, Comic Book Girl 19, Cartoon Block, Robert Marzullo, Alfonso Dunn, mostly comic book artists. Well, I have to admit that of those, the only one I watch is Red Letter Media. I've heard of Comic Book Girl 19. I don't watch her show because I don't want to get influenced by trying to cover the same material, so not familiar with her show. The others I don't know. Maybe that's something I should remedy, something I should fix. Try to clean her face up a little. What do we got here? It's okay. Not great, not terrible. All right, folks, this is probably what I'm going to wrap up with. Let's see. Keelan says, let me just go ahead and say I was so happy when the One More Day video came out. Good. I'm glad someone enjoyed it. Thank you. Appreciate the support. Do you know Dave Raposa? Thoughts on his art? Sorry, I do not know that artist. I will have to look Dave Raposa up. Not familiar. Always something new to learn in the world of comics. I love it. I feel like I did something here that I don't like, but I don't know what it is. Something about her face bothers me. Ah, well, you can only do so much in one day. That's it for today, folks. I appreciate you watching, and I will be on tomorrow night. I will be on tomorrow night for more live streaming, so I will see you all then. Take care.